what is your recommendation for people to find? What are the hot jobs in a specific location that individuals are looking for?
I would see what's happening in terms of meetups. So generally, depends on your city, because if you're in an urban place like San Francisco or the Bay Area or New York or what have you, there is there are a lot of whatever that technology is or whatever that sector is. There happen to be a lot of meetups that you can suddenly pop up if you're, going on Eventbrite or things of that nature as well. Also, if you can get an events calendar of just conferences in your city, see what conferences are currently hot right now that aren't big name conference. Like RSA is always going to be RSA, and Black Hat is always going to be Black Hat in the big conferences. The other thing that I always do, right, and I use RSA generally as the marker, but RSA is a little later this year, is I find the top buzzwords that are coming from the first conferences of the year, because generally those buzzwords will be riding out that whole year going forward, because the sales team has picked up, what their talking points are going to be. So those are some of the things that I would do to figure out, what's the best in my area.
Every job's at cybersn.com and it tells you where the locations are. That being said, uh, you know, the big cities is where still the majority of employment is, and people do want people going back into the office. And I think can be a competitive edge if you are willing to go into the office. I mean, it's such a big deal for a lot of organizations, mostly on the East Coast, that, I considered changing my pricing for people that are going to require people coming into the office that are SMEs. It's very hard to fill those roles. So those of us that are seeking to break in, there's a competitive edge. If you're willing to come in the office, people want people in the office. I think that we got to think about where the money's at versus the jobs. Like, where's the money? What just happened? Who received money? Who lost money? And then just know that in a few months, everybody will be hiring. Maybe this year being an election year, it slows us and it's longer than a few months and it's the whole year. But at the end of the day, most recessions, all that I've been around since 2000 anyways, and prior, and my mentors, they last 2 years because money shifts hands. And then there's all this chaos and what have you. So my point is, even the tech companies that laid off in the early time are now hiring again. And so while might be new to a lot of us, this is common. Every 10 years, there's 7 to 10 years, this is big disruption. So you got to work your competitive edge, like being in the office, being flexible, be open to it. A lot of employers will actually concede to not really being in the office after you're completely interviewed as much, I mean, there's things once people fall in love with each other that can be looked at. I mean, don't go under false pretenses by any means that you're not willing to be in the office. But I would think about where the money is. It's in energy, it's in finance, it's in manufacturing, right? It's really kind of everywhere but tech right this moment. Unfortunately.
So if you search whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's simply online, and you write, cybersecurity professionals in my area, some cybersecurity professionals have blogs, some cybersecurity professionals have websites, and you can try to connect with these folks. You can learn about what are the roles that they do. Upon doing a search like this, you might actually find that people in your local area, there's a lot of people with one sort of job. You might alternatively find that a bunch of people in your area are all looking for work, or, whatever some of that dynamic is. But I think that, to look at the jobs themselves is one thing, but to look at individuals' profiles who are based in your area might be another technique to leverage. I totally agree with what folks have said with regards to following the money and looking at conferences. In particular, I'll point folks to cybersecurity vendors that are sponsoring conferences. Now, if a cybersecurity vendor is sponsoring a conference, what it means is they have a large marketing budget that may or may not correlate to them having open positions, but sometimes it does. So those are a few of my thoughts.
And one thing I forgot to mention when I spoke the last time is LinkedIn is a great way to find out who you should be looking for and start connecting to them early. A lot of people here in this area, at least, use LinkedIn. And I would just go out there and look for some of the roles that you want to aspire to get. And I would start connecting those people and start building a relationship there. But just given the technology centric way that we are here in Atlanta, it's pretty easier to make the connections to the people here, and they actually can help you develop further in your career or get your career.
Imposter syndrome is a psychological occurrence. A lot of people who have it doubt their skills, they doubt their abilities. Often they think that they're not even qualified, to the extent that they might even think that they're a fraud, even though they're in a great position. And so, again, Jimmy, starting with you, I've run into so many security professionals that are great people. They know what they're talking about. They're doing good work. Yet every second of every day, they think that somebody is going to discover that they really aren't as good as they are.